Howdy folks, Tom Barbalet here. So I wanted to give a bit of an overview associated with the Noble Ape development. Here's the Mac version as I see it. I've included the new OpenGL code just to give that as a demonstration. But let me run the initial simulation and give folks a sense of what this whole thing is about. So here we have what I've described as the Oscillator Interface. This previously was 5 windows, but there was a bug in an earlier version of the Mac OS that didn't like rendering the monochrome windows. So you may see some footage online, particularly I think Bruce Damer's demonstration of Noble Ape in, I don't know, 2008 or something like that, which had 5 windows. But this version of the simulation only has 2. And that was done basically to avoid the Apple bug. Anyway, so here, let me let you know what you see in the interface. So here you have the time, and these are little date representations as well, but it's mainly the time. This is the weather that the particular ape sees. Here you see all the weather maps of the various apes scattered over the environment. This is the speed of the Noble Ape. This is the body energy of the Noble Ape. This is the direction that the Noble Ape is facing. This is the Noble Ape's genetics. This shows that it's a female ape. And this is the 8 brain cycles per second, which was the Apple determined metric, which I think they demonstrated at WWDC 2003 initially. So it's getting about dawn time. You'll see that actually come up with the graphics here. And it'll start showing the Noble Apes waking up, and you'll start to see their cognitive processes. So it's about dawn time. You can see the tides moving, and the Noble Ape is waking up. It's interesting actually that it doesn't have sleep processing, but the brain, the cognitive simulation doesn't have random noise entered into it currently. So anyway, where this ape is currently, let's see where that ape is. It's currently sunny. I think this is there's the selected ape. This is one of these difficult things to actually see on the new maps. Oh, here it is. So this ape here is the one that's actually selected. If you pause the simulation and remove the weather over the top, it makes the apes a little easier to see. You can just click on them and select them. Seem to be a lot of female apes. All these are female apes so far. Seems to be a genuine shortage of men. These are all female apes. So you can also use, I'll use the quick keys here, but you can scan between the apes. Okay, so there's a male, all on his lonesome. But yeah, a majority of these apes are female. There's another male. Seems to be almost like a 3-to-1 ratio. Yeah, but yeah, heavy density of female apes. So I'm not sure if there are just more Eve apes than there are Adam apes. But anyway, this also gives you an indication of the Oscillator interface. So this was where the graphics have been since 2003. There have been some speed improvements and things like that. I mean, there are tides now, and the window is bigger and the size of the apes is smaller. So you'll see in the Bruce Damer demo, the size of the apes were much larger and the window was smaller. But this is basically the format of the simulation, as it's been for a number of years now. The map size is also increased, but it's just a function of processing. So you can probably hear the fan running over my voice too. And on this particular laptop it takes quite a bit of juice to actually run the Noble Ape simulation like this. So in order to run the OpenGL version, I'm sorry it's kind of late here, so this is also my second take. You just undefine this, and the current OpenGL version isn't really there, it's just a kind of demonstration version. But if you remember what the previous version looked like, the OpenGL version is slightly different. These numbers here are actually interesting because they represent some of the simplifications that aren't currently being done. The perspective is slightly different as well, so if you look very faintly here, there is a little red dot, and that's not the current ape. This is just a rotation of a section of landscape, just to get a sense of it. So there's a lot more optimization that can be done here. The number of polygons can be culled quite dramatically. In these areas here, you don't need the number of polygons that you have, or that I've implemented. So yeah, this is going to change quite a bit. But it'll be, you know, it's an ongoing development, and the main purpose of implementing OpenGL is that it's a standard that a lot of people are familiar with, so we can get in graphics developers that will understand how to write OpenGL code, or at least interface with OpenGL code. In the legacy source code, there's also a kind of embodiment drawing the Noble Ape bodies, which no doubt will be implemented shortly as well, so you can actually see the Noble Apes wandering around in the environment. And this will be the map, but an OpenGL version of the map. So let's quit that. Let's undefine that. Let's save that. So here's the various bits of source code. I'm going to give a really fast overview of this because I just want to get this video out initially, and I'm going to record a lot more YouTube videos associated with Noble Ape. But this is the new OpenGL environment. This is the GUI. Now previously the GUI was through control and underneath it draw, but basically through the implementation on Mac, Windows, Linux and iPad, all the functionality was the same. It went through very simple interfaces. So for example, the cycle combined the mouse control, the keyboard control, the simulation and the drawing all through one central point of functionality. Basically the mouse location and keyboard location, all these things were cached and just came through this one point. So, every implementation had this code duplicated, and it just seemed ridiculous, which is the origin of shared. So eventually, probably control will go away with all these elements, and as it is written currently, it just has kind of divergent versions, and it will all go through the shared code in the long term and be implemented on various machines. There are folks who've just recently joined the simulation who I've kind of asked if they're interested in implementing the shared code, and there's a fellow who's doing it currently for the Linux version with bits and pieces of assistance. So this is the Mac source code. This is actually Objective-C, relatively thin Objective-C layer. The Noble directory is the underlying elements of the Noble Ape simulation that aren't specific to Noble Ape. So there's a lot of underlying mathematics. There's ApeScript, which is represented in the parse and interpret. So parses the text ApeScript, and interprets that. I/O handles, I think, all the file handling currently. I've pruned out, I think, pretty well everything else, so it's just file handling. It's got the console in it as well, which enables console runs. That probably should go somewhere else, but for now it's just there for safekeeping. Math covers all the mathematics in Noble Ape, including Newton root, the bilinear interpolations, the random components, turn towards, a kind of divergent spread, the hash algorithm, the Breslin line join. What's this? Oh, that's used for kind of bispatial patching, which creates both the land and also potentially the Noble Ape fur patterns in the future, and all the vector mathematics as well. The Noble.h, that just covers the interface basically outside Noble into the other areas, and Skim was the ApeBrain code to ApeScript, and back again to ApeBrain code interface, which is still a work in progress. Then you have the universe directory, and the universe directory really is the Noble Ape simulation at its core, and this is included in both the command line environment and everything else. So be it command line or be it GUI, the Noble directory and the universe directory will both be included. But anyway, so that controls the beings. As it is currently, it's only Noble Ape, and this is kind of macro versus social. There's all these kind of divisions now associated with what goes where, some of which are quite artificial. So there's a lot of social code, as you can see here in episodic code, and being, this is going to be moved. Body currently has, I think, an 8-bit version of the Noble Apes drawn, and not much else. Like I said, there's some legacy stuff associated with that. I'm going to try and go through it as fast as possible. Brain covers, used to historically cover the cognitive simulation and the Apple and Intel changes associated with that, and now there's a lot more of Bob Mottram's brain code in there. Genealogy has the Mormon format for genealogy. Again, more of Bob Mottram's code, but yeah, just to show the genetic ancestry of the Noble Apes. Turtle.h is the stuff internal to universe, and land covers both the land and the weather simulation. Sim, this used to be a lot of code that was in control, but basically through the command line version, a lot of the code was needed at a lower level, so I moved a lot of the control code in through Sim, and currently it's a bit of a dumping ground, which really was the way that Control used to be. There's also some underlying graphing elements that Bob Mottram uses in the web server version. So yeah, just a whole lot of stuff there currently, plus the basic interface into the simulation. Social covers the social graph, kind of social simulation, episodic elements, and all this kind of stuff. And again, some of the stuff is moving into body, some of the stuff belongs in being. There's kind of a transience of all these elements of code. And universe.h just describes the Noble Ape Simulation up into basically either the GUI or the command line environment. So my plan is to record a lot more of these videos and just give a more detailed overview associated with the underlying files, but just want to get this thing started, test out the software, and see if this is beneficial to folks. So please leave feedback, let me know what you think, and if you want things that I'm going to be doing more detail on and what have you, just let me know, because like I say, I've got the software now and I'm looking forward to explaining more about the Noble Ape Simulation. Anyway, Tom Barbalet, currently in the Bay Area, relatively late in the evening. Let me just put up this signing out.